Carl sends me this great message here.
Hello, Dr. Rachel. I have a question. This is a product, it's known as the Spinner and made by Tinga. There's one interesting thing about this particular adult product is on the lower part of it. It has a P65 warnings.ca.gov, and the issue is about cancer and reproductive harm. So I wondered if you could give us an understanding of what exactly the chemicals that could possibly harm us. Is it something that we should not be using? And why are these products allowed? And if it's per state, just giving us an understanding about what exactly it is it
Uh-huh.
could do to us. I hope I'm very clear about my explanation because it was an interesting product.
Very clear, very clear. So basically the product is called a spinner, and there's a warning on it that basically says you could be exposed to toxic chemicals. Learn more about it here. Now, the way the country today seems to handle toxins is instead of telling you you can't put it in, that you need to make the product differently, they're just like, well, okay, just put a warning on there. We've warned people, and if you still proceed, then you're proceeding at your own risk. So that product is called a stroker. And so the spinner basically has a little bit of a texture inside of a sleeve. And the whole idea is that you use that when you masturbate so that you can have better pleasure. So the thing about spinners and other products like that is they're made out of this really jelly, gooey type of substance, right? And that's kind of where the pleasure comes from. It's the texture of the substance so that when you put lube in there, it gets all like, it's like a whole thing, right? But that particular type of like cyber skin and jelly type of product does carry a higher cancer risk than some of the other products, like your silicone based products. So you're at an impasse because the silicone based products aren't going to necessarily feel as good as those jelly types of substances. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that this is not something that you're using, hopefully, every day of the week and exposing yourself to the toxins over and over again. If you notice, a lot of times you'll take them and you'll smell them and you'll just smell it. It just smells kind of toxic, right? So some ways to minimize your exposure is to just take like a polyurethane condom and use it underneath. It will minimize the sensation a little bit, but it will keep that jelly-like substance from needing to be on your skin. I worry more about those jelly-like substances for insertion. So inserting it into the anus or inserting it into the vagina, I worry more about that because that's an internal situation, and the mucosa or the lining of the anus and the vagina are different than the skin on a penis. So there's not going to be as much absorption into the bloodstream as there is on the exterior surface of penile tissue, unless, of course, there's an outbreak or there's a rash or you're rubbed so raw that, it makes it easy for toxic substances to get in. Because remember, our skin is our first barrier, our first layer of protection. And so ideally, if that skin is intact, it doesn't have any cuts on it, it's nice and lubed up, that maybe toxins aren't going to get in there as much. But if you have some cuts on it, or if it's just laying on top of it for long periods of time, then you're increasing your risk of being exposed to potentially toxic chemicals. All right, so that's my spiel on that. So really looking for body grade silicone or food safe silicone types of products would be more more efficient and less toxin exposure if that's the route that you're going. Like for instance, our massagers that we sell, those are all body safe silicone, which is like a food grade silicone. Sometimes we can even use silicone sheets to bake on. So silicone is going to be kind of one of your safer bets when it comes to sex toys, but usually those strokers and the things like that, they don't use silicone as much because that other stuff, that jelly, just feels so damn nice and makes all those funny sounds that we like when we're using a stroker.